Jai Sri Ram. By the grace of Lord Sri Ram, Lord Sri Hanuman, we will start the story of Ramayana. The story is starting like this. Coursing through the sky in his celestial chariot, Ravan appears like a blazing comet. His dark body shone with a brilliant aura. From his 10 hands, his reddish eyes darted about, scouring the mountains below. His 20 powerful arms hanging from his huge frame looked like a hooded serpents. Seated on a throne of gems, he directed his golden chariots by thought along and it moved swiftly over the Himalayan range. Just imagine the story of Ramayana, how the Ravana looked like. With the Ravana, the demon was out on his conscience. All around him flew thousands of Rakshasas, clutching swords, barbed spears, spiked maces, and iron bulkheads. All of these weapons smeared with blood. Some Rakshasas had the head of tigers, some of donkeys, and some of fiance's friends. Others appeared in their natural forms, large blackish bodies, fearful faces, with tall pointed ears and row of sharp fangs, with a mass of red hair on their heads. They wore iron breastplates studded with gems and were adorned with bright gold earrings and other shining ornaments. Surrounding Ravana, they look like dark cloud with lighting covering the sun. Just imagine how they are surrounding with Ravan. Ravan wished to defeat in the battle even the gods themselves. Wanting to establish his supreme power in the universe, he had gone to the higher planets and conquered the host of Gandharvas and Yakyas, powerful celestial fighters. Now he was returning from his victorious fight with Kuvera, his own brother and the treasurer of the god. That lordly deity has been made a retreat by Ravana, losing to the demon his wonderful chariot known in all the world as the Pushpaka Viman. The fearless Ravana, overlord of the demons, looked down from the Pushpaka Vimana at the forest below. It was a picture of tranquility. Amongst the trees were many verdant clearing covered with varieties of wild herbs and forest flowers. Crystal waterfall cascades onto many colored rocks. Lake filled with lotus and swan shone from the mountain plateaus at the hordes of Rakshasas soared overhead. Sometimes the demons would see groups of rishis, ascetic Brahmins who sweat in those high mountains range, practicing austerities and worshipping the gods. They would see the columns of smoke rising up amongst the tree from the sacrificial fire tended by the sages. Using their powerful so- sorcery, the Rakshas drove down volume of blood, feces, and urine, defilling the sacrifice. They would then haul huge boulders and blazing coals, crushing and burning the sages where they sat in meditation. Finally, the demons would themselves descend, howling and roaring. They tore apart the body of the Rishis, drinking their blood and devouring their flesh. Ravana admired the Pushpaka as it proceeded according to his will. His brother Kuvera would be sorry to lose such a splendid vehicle. It looked more like a city of gods floating in the air than a chariot. Numerous cat's eye and crystal pillars ran along its sides, supporting golden mansions inlaid with coral. Large floor made entirely of gems stood upon gold statues of lions and tigers. Groups of artificial trees shining with gold leaves and fruits surrounded large ponds crowded with a white lotus. In those clear ponds stood every elephant and silver goddess. Network of a fiercely pierced and wealth of crystal celestial flowers hung all over the cars. It was encrusted with countless precious stones and embossed with gold carving of wolves, sharks, and fierce bears. Sweeping through the sky, it emits the sound of celestial music and fragrance of parijat flowers, known only to the gods. As Ravana sat idly aboard the chariot, gazing around at the magnificent scenery below, he suddenly noticed a lady sitting in meditation. This was most unusual. Women were rarely seen in those mountains. Sometimes the Rusi would have their wives with them, but this woman seems to be entirely alone. Ravana slowed the chariot and moved down to look more closely. Perhaps there were more ascetic nearby. The Rakshasas could use a little entertainment, and if this woman was as beautiful as she seemed at first glance, so could he. Ordering the Rakshasa to wait in the sky, Ravana himself rose off from the chariots and descended to the ground. He saw the young aesthetic lady sitting on a flat piece of soft grassland surrounded by wild flowers. She glowed with a golden beauty. Her limbs were exquisitely formed and her full breasts were covered by a blackish deer snake's skin. Ravana could see the contours of her trapping thigh through the thin cloth covering her crossed legs. Dark locks of thickly matted hair hung down to her waist, forming her white complexioned face. Her red lips moved slightly as she intoned the scared syllable Om. Her smooth golden arms were bared in front of her as she sat with folded palms. Her long curling lashes covering half-closed eye. Ravana's mind was overpowered by lust. Who was this youthful lady? What was she doing here in such a lonely place? Did she have a protector? Never mind. he would soon deal with that. The forest was no place such a maiden. She would make an excellent addition to his other consorts. By his mystic power, Ravana assumed a human form and approached the girl. He spoke loudly, distributing her reveries. "O most beautiful maiden, who are you? Why are you practicing asceticism in this lonely region? To whom you belong? What fortune man has you for his wives?" The demon was unable to resist the charms of a woman as he gazed upon the aureole form of the girl. He was possessed by increasing desire. He laughed and waited for her to reply. The girl fully opened her black eyes and looked at Ravana. Seeing him a guest in her hermitage, she spoke respectfully, telling him her name. She was Vedavati, the daughter of a powerful sage, who was himself a son of God's protector, Brahm- Bruhaspati. Looking down in shyness, she said, "I was born as the incarnation of the holy Vedas. My father was sought by numerous gods and other celestial beings who wished to have my hand in marriage. However, none but Vishnu, the Lord of all the worlds, can be my spouse. Thus I am seated here, absorbed in thought of Lord and awaiting his favor." Vedavati and had meditated for thousands of years, her body like that of the god. Neither aged nor required any sustenance. She could understand by her own inner vision who Ravana was and what was his intention. In gentle tones, she said that only Vishnu could be her husband. That inconceivable Lord was all powerful and all seeing, and she had chosen him alone. She could not belong to anyone else. Ravana should continue on his way as before. Ravana laughed again. He was not going to leave behind this jewel of a woman. Hearing the name of Vishnu, his sworn enemy, only made him all the more determined. The demon's voice boomed like thunder. "Your resolution to practice austerity befits only old women. Old lady of sharp limbs, why do you waste your fleeting youth in this way? I am Ravana, lord of the Rakshasas, the very mighty race of the demons. Become my wife and live with me in the capital of Lanka, Sri Lanka, the Lord City, the Golden City. I forcibly seized from the God who is in the who is this Vishnu anyway." Ravan spoke desirably of a Vishnu whom he knew to be the Lord of the gods. The arrogant demons cared nothing for any universal austerity. He had been granted wombs by Brahma, the creator of the universe, who had so blessed the Rakshasa that he could not be killed by the practicing any created beings, neither god or nor demons. Ravana could assume forms at will. Vedavati's mention of Vishnu did not bother him in the least. He stood smiling before the maidens, his eyes full of lust. Hearing Ravana deride Vishnu, Vedavati flared off with anger and rebuked the demons. She told him to leave immediately for his own good, lest his incite the powerful anger of that supreme deity. Ravana smiled. This high-spirited woman would make a perfect consort for him. He stepped forward and grabbed hold of her long locks. Vedavati at once uttered a powerful Sanskrit mantra which momentarily checked the demon's advance. She lifted a hand and by her mystic power cut through her hair. The Rakshas fell back in surprise as she spoke furiously. "Oh, evil one! Oh, evil one!" Vedavati said, "Oh, evil one! I shall now quit this body. I shall now quit this body defiled by your touch. As I have been insulted by you, I shall take bath again only for your destruction. Appears from the earth. I shall become the purest daughter of a virtuous man. You and your entire race will be destroyed as the result of the birth." Vedavati closes her eyes and meditated on Vishnu, seeing him within her heart. Before Ravana's eyes, she invoked fire from within herself. Her body was immediately consumed by flames, and in a few moments, Ravana stood looking at her ashes, baffled by her words. The disappointed demons rose again to his chariot and continued on this way. The demons and his Rakshas followers spent some time in the Himalayan mountains, working havoc amongst the many atheists living there. Gradually, they approached the far northern region where they lay Mount Kailasa, the abode, abode of Shiva. As the Puspaka began crossing the mountain, it was suddenly brought to a halt. Ravana was surprised and he descended to the ground, surrounded by his ministers who accompanied by him on the chariot. As he gazed around the brilliant scenery on the mountainside, he saw a strange begin with a monkey's head. The creature appeared dreadful, with a dark yellowish complexion and misshapen features. Although his body was large, he had a dual flesh structures. He was clean shaven and muscular, and he stood holding a large glowing pike. As he gazed at Ravana, the demon called out to him, "Who are you and where is this region? Why have I been impeded?" Then he said, "I am Nandi, the servant of Shiva, the servant of Shiva," replied the unusual beings. "You have arrived at Shiva abode, which is inaccessible to all created beings. You will not be able to pass this mountain. Therefore, turn back and go the way you have come." Ravana looked at the strange body of Nandi and laughed out loud. He spoke in a desultory voice. "Why should I heed you, O monkey-faced one? Who is this Shiva anyway?" Hearing his master insulted, infuriated Nandi, raising his pike, which shot forth tongues of fire, he exclaimed, "O Rakshas, I should kill you at once, but I will not do so. as you already stand killed by your own sins. But I say this, as you disregard me in my monkey form, there shall be born a earth many monkeys of terrible strength who will inherit your race. As Nandi spoke, the sound heavenly drums reverberate in the sky and showering of flowers fell. Ravan's eyes flamed in anger. Disregarding the courses, he roared, I shall remove his heel from my path. What do I care if for you and your master? The Rakshasas immediately pumped his 20 massive arms deep into the side of the hill. He began tearing it off, and it slowly rose above the earth, shaking violently. As the hill shook, Shiva's consort Parvati slipped from her position and clung to her husband. Shiva reassured her, do not be afraid. This is the action of the vain demon Ravana. I shall deal with him shortly. He cannot harm you. Parvati's eyes turned red as she replied to her powerful husband. As this waste has frightened a woman by his violence, his death shall be caused by a woman. Shiva stood up and passed down upon the hill with the two. Ravana at once felt an unbearable pressure. His arms, with resembled huge pillars holding the hill, were crushed. He let out a tremendous cry that resounded throughout the three worlds, the heaven, earth, and hell. Terrifying all beings, he was trapped by the weight of mountain and could not move. The Rakshas ministers at once surrounded him and advised him to appraise Shiva. We have heard how that all powerful one is easily pleased. Offering him prayers and seek him compassion at once. Surely he will be gracious to you. Ravana, who had made a study of all the scripture, begins reciting humans from the Samveda in glorification of Shiva. But even after 100 years had passed, the Ravana still remains trapped, although in great pain. He continued offering prayers to Shiva. Finally, Shiva relented and relieved Ravana of the pressure. He appeared before the demon and spoke kindly, O 10-handed one, your prayers have pleased me. Do not be so rash again. Leave, leave now and go wherever you like. Ravana bowed to the god who stood holding his famous trident. The crescent moonstone from his head and a large serpent was coiled around his blue neck. He gazed at Ravana with his three eyes as the demon folded his palms to address him. My lord, if you are actually pleased with me, then please give me your weapons. Shiva smiled. Ravana lost for battle would prove to be his destruction before long. Saying, so be it. Shiva raised his palms in a benediction and immediately vanished from the spot. Ravan felt the mantras for invoking Shiva powerful Puspopati weapon appears within his mind. He smiled. Who could resist your such power? Even he had been unable to overcome Shiva. The great deity was suddenly worthy on his worship. Ravan mountain, the Puspaka, which had waited in the sky at the time he was trapped, being unable to process further to the north, he turned back southwards, still accompanied by his numerous Rakshas forces. As he moved across the earth seeking further material engagements, he came upon the city of Ajodhya. This was the capital of the worlds of human. The emperor of the earth dwelt there, and Ravana considered him as fit for a fight. If he conquered this king, then the whole earth would be subjugated. Ravana had a little interest in human affairs. The Rakshasas were a superior race of being more on the level with gods, but the demon wanted to establish the supremacy over the all beings. His army of Rakshasas surrounded the city, challenging empire to the battle. A fierce fight ensued between the two armies of Ravana's and the Ajodhya king Anara, Anaraya. Ten of Tens of thousands of chariots and elephants come onto the battlefield along with hundreds of thousands of foot soldiers. Showered of arrow like swarm of black bee flew upon the demons. Anaranya army threw lances, darts, steel bullets, and iron marched by the million. They swept towards the enemy, shouting courageously with their weapons raised. Ravan forces used so scary to appear and disappear at will, flying in the sky and hurling down rocks and sharp weapons. The king army replied with a showering of swift and deadly arrows. Using powerful catapults, the warriors threw at the Rakshasas large iron darts with whistled through the air. But Honoraya fighters could not easily engage with the elusive demons. Although they rushed forward, lashing at the enemy with their blue steel swords, the soldiers found themselves cleave, cleavering, cleave, cleaving the air as the Rakshasa rose into the sky. The Rakshasa who towards over this human foot would then suddenly descend behind the soldiers, cutting them down with razor sharp scimitars. Gradually, Gradually, the demons overpowered the king's army. The battlefield becomes strewn with mangled body of Anaraya's troops. Blood floated in the waves upon the ground. Head rolled on the earth with their golden ears flashing and their teeth clenched in fury. Large and well-muscled arms still clutching a broad swords and lance lay severed amidst the entrail of strained warriors. The demon sent a great shout as they hacked down the king's army. Anaranya himself exhibited great powers. Prowess. He knew the secret of a celestial weapon, and by invoking those divine missiles, he killed innumerable Rakshasa. When the demons hid using their sorcery, he released the sub weapons of sound, with which found them wherever they were. A horde of Rakshasa rushed at the empire he let go the wind weapons, which lifted the demons and hauled them far away. Uh, Anarayo was difficult to look upon as he stood in his chariot. He realized he released his weapons. They fell upon the Rakshas force like blazing meteors. But the demons found outnumbed the humans. Although they had pressed by the king, the Rakshasa responded with more and more sorcery, vanished into the sky and entering the earth. Eventually, Ravana had completely annihilated their enemies, and Anaraya stood alone against the demon. Seeing all this, all his force consumed like so many moths entering a fire, the emperor becomes infuriated. He went towards Ravana, who had stood by in a war chariot as his Rakshasa fought with the soldier. And Naraya took off his great bow and let loose handed fierce arrow, which spread like flame of a fire towards Ravana. By the incarnation of Naraya, those arrows were imbued with the power of thunderbolts. The kings fired them off swiftly, and they flew in the long line. Almost end to end, they struck Ravan furiously on his head and chest, sounding like claps of thunder. But the demon did not flinch in the least. Angered by the king suddenly attack, Ravana took off a terrible looking mask. He whistled it above his head with such force that it glowed bright orange and threw off tongues of fire. He flew with the speed of a tempest towards the emperor and struck him a great blow of forehead. The king fell from his chariot and lay bleeding on the ground. The Rakshasas began laughing and deriding the fallen monarchy. What is the use of fighting with Ravana? There is none who can face me in the battle and remain alive. Clearly, you are the foolish man, too much addicted to wine and women. Thus you have not had my unaccessible power. Ravana continued insulting the dying king, mocking in his ancestral line in which the Earth Empire had appeared for thousands of years. Anaraya looked up at the demons with the eye red from anger, grasping for breath as his life slipped away. He spoke with difficulty. I have not been killed by you, O vile Ravana, Rakshasa. Death is certainly and comes to all vegans according to their destiny. None can be killed before their faith decrease, nor can any be saved when their times has arrived. I am thus killed by my own faith. Do not indulge in self-praise, Ravana, for your own death will soon come. The emperor possessed the mystic power gained by his long practice of austerity. He was loath to waste that accumulated power of Ravana, but the demons had to be checked. The dying king could at least do something before he departed. Anaraya fixed his fading gaze on the lords of Rakshasa and counter attracting his mind. The author of course in the very line you now rewrite, O Ravana, there will soon appear a king who will kill you and all your race. As Anaraya spoke, the sound of a kettle drum was heard resounded in the sky, and showered a celestial flower fell upon him. Heavenly voice overhead to say, "It shall be so." Having delivered in course, the emperor slumped to the ground, his life spent. Before the eye of the demon Anaraya left his body and rose upward to the heavens, his ethereal form glowing like fire. Ravana sounded and derisively, who cared for the cause of some puny being. What human could ever kill him? He only bothered fighting with them but by way of idle sport. Anaraya's course was simply the incense word of a dying man. It could never come to pass. If any king dared challenge him, they would meet the same end as this one here. As for the celestial voice, well, he would soon deal with those arrogant deities. The demon again mounted the Pushpak Viman, which was stationed in the sky, not being interested in pillaged the planetary wealth of human city. He left and soared off into the heaven. Perhaps there were some gods around who could put up and better fight. Ravan went off the heaven planets inhabited by the principal gods, but the gods swiftly ran away, unwilling to encounter him in the battle. They knew of the inviolable booms of Brahma. It was pointless fighting the demon. The gods prayed to Vishnu, hiding themselves in fear. Ravana decided to rest for a while in the heaven. He went to Amaravati, the city of Indra, king of gods. As Rakshasa was seated in the celestial Narada Nandana gardens, he saw an Apsara, a heavenly nymph named Rambha. The face of the celestial god shone with incomparable beauty, and she was adorned with bright garlands and jewelries. Her soul captivating eyes glanced her and there, and her fleshy hips swayed as she moved. Ravana gazed upon her large round breasts and sharply thighs. Her hand, soft like rose petal, pulled her shining blue dress tight around her body as she saw the demons staring at her. Ravana assumed a godly form of great splendor, concealing his terrible ten-headed body. He sprang to his feet and quickly went over the over to Ramba, immediately taking her by the hand. Completely overcome by lust, he smiled at the celestial girl. Where do you go and whose are you, lovely lady? He asked. Who will today enjoy the nature of your soft red lips? Who will be blessed by the touch of your thunder breasts? with fortune man will lie tightly embarrassed by you, his mind completely captured by carnal delights. Ravana was not at all concerned whether she was married or not. He had stolen the wives of God, Gandharvas, and demons everywhere, taking them to Lanka to join his hymns. The Rakshasa was accustomed to having his way and spoke only in an attempt to win over Ramba. He praised our divine beauty and told her of his own power and glory. What woman would refuse the opportunity to become the consort of a mighty Ravana? But the beautiful girl did not reciprocate his advance. She pulled away from him, her bright bracelets falling to the ground as she wedged herself from Ravana grasp. Folding her palms and looking down, she addressed the Rakshasa reproachfully. Please do not speak in this way. I am as good as your daughter, and I therefore deserve to protect by you. O Ravana, indeed I am the wedded wife of another. Ravana told him she was married to God Nala Nala who was the son of Kubera, Ravana's own brother. She was thus related to Ravana, and he should not make an amorous advance towards her. Ravana laughed loudly. He had no regrets whatsoever for any moral code. He moved towards Ramba, who runs behind a golden brush. Ravana pushed her, pulling off his red silk robes and revealing his immense, lustrous body. The Mediterranean tries to invade him, dogging her and there with the garland and necklace swellings. But it was useless. Taking holds from the Rakshasa forcefully led her across a nearby rock. He snatched off her garments and intervene, begins reveals her eyes. His eyes expanded in delight. Ramba cried out for help, but seeing the furious Rakshasa, no one dared intervene. The demon's power hand pinned the white arms of Mediniana against the rocks. Her dark hair fell into the disheartening. It, its golden claps and flowers dislodged. Ravana violently molested her in front of his demon followers. Although she begged him to desist, the Rakshasa took that struggling heavenly girl against her desire. After Ravana had sated his lust, he stood up, fastening his wet cloth, waist cloth, shedding tears. Ramba backed away from the demons and felt her clothes torn and her garlands crushed. She went before her husband. When he saw in that condition, Nalakuber becomes infuriated. But when he heard it was Ravana who had raped her, he felt helpless. The demon had already defeated Nalakuber's powerful father, who was supported by innumerable Yaksha warriors. there was no possibility of facing Ravana in a fight. Nalakuber considered the situation carefully. Although he could not fight the demon, he could at least cross him as a result of the evil acts. The righteous cause of the gods invoke the infallible power of a Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Vishnu. Consider this the only means of punishing Ravana. Nalakubar touched holy water and then uttered his imperfection. The evil Rakshasa has violated a celestial lady. If he ever again rapes, rapes another Meridian, he will immediately fall dead. Ravana soon heard of that curse. He had seen such curse made by gods and Rishi come to pass many times. So once uttered, they could not be retracted. Although he did not like to accept it, Ravana could understand that some powerful force maintained the universal order and law. Thinking it's possible that Nalakuvar's words might just to be effective. He decided not to again force himself upon another female. Better not to take any chances. After all, there was enough women who would willingly accept him. As Ravana flew in Pushpaka, he suddenly saw ahead of him the celestial seer Narada, shining brightly and holding his tamburo. The seer picked the steering gently, singing the praise of Vishnu. Ravana had met him many times before and was pleased to see him. The Rakshasa usually had a little time for sages, especially devotee of Vishnu. He prefers to kill and eat them rather than speak with them. The Rishi and seers generally favored the Lord's gods. But Narada was different. He would often give Ravana good advice and seems to be his well-wisher. Ravana raised a hand in a salute of the sage. The seer come before Ravana and greeted him. Narada could travel freely anywhere in the universe. It was even said that he could leave the material worlds and journey to Vaikuntha, the spiritual abode of Lord himself, which knows no decay and is free of all suffering. Narada smiled at Ravana. His large eyes were like two shining sapphires. Dear Narada stood in the air in front of Ravana, who invited him into onto the chariot. Sitting cross-legged on the golden seat next to the demon, the seer begins to address him in gentle and pleasing tones. Why are you harassing these worlds of human, O violent one? It is already in grief of death. These people do not deserve to be attacked by you, Ravana, who, who cannot be overcome by even entire heavenly host united together, who would destroy people who are working by numerous anxiety, surrounded by endless calamities, and are subjected to old age and hundred of desire. Narada told to Ravana that everyone in the material world would in time to go to abode of Yamaraj, the great lord of death. There was no need for Ravana to kill them. Death conquered all. Even the gods would eventually succumb to depth. If Ravana should conquer the Yamaraj, the entire universe would be conquered. The sage knew that Ravana could not overpower Yamaraj, but he wanted to distract the demon from his evil aim of killing many people and overthrowing the gods. He also wanted the Rakshasa to greatly increase his sinful action by assailing the god of death. Ravana would thus create for him a karmic destiny which would soon result in his own destruction. The demon pondered Narada's suggestion. This sound interesting. This sounded interesting. He liked the idea of fighting with the immediate powerful Yamaraj. Immensely powerful Yamaraj. Perhaps this would be a battle worthy for him. And if death himself were slain, then the whole universe order would be cast in utter chaos. That appeal of Ravana, who wanted to assert himself over any and all powerful in the universe. He nodded slowly at Narada, who sat smiling at him. Narada told the sage he would leave immediately for the death abode. As Narada rose up into the sky, playing upon his tambourine, Ravana began heading towards the domain of Yamaraj, the god of justice. As Ravana approached the ethereal region known as Yamaloka, he saw everywhere living beings reaped the fruits of their action. He also saw the millions of soldiers and servants of Yamaraj, known as Yamaduta. They appeared fierce and unapproachable. Their bodies were powerful and hideous, deformed, covered all over with black hair that stood erect. In their hand, they had noses and terrible weapons. Their faces were contoured into frightful expression, and they yelled and shrieked in a distorted tone, moving swiftly. They struck and tortured people who were running all in all directions. Then Fearful screamed and cried resounded everywhere in the dark and desolated place. Ravana saw in hundreds and thousands of people being eaten by fierce dogs, consumed by fires, or being hurled in a vast of spoiling oils by the Yamadutas. Other unrighteous men and women were running here and there on burning sands, being forced by the Yamadutas holding lances and tridents. Some were being dragged through trees with leaves like steel razor that seared their bodies. Howling in the terrible pain there, they would fall to the ground, but their body would again become whole. They would then leap up and race off, only to be quickly caught by the Yamadutas and put through the same suffering again. Ravana Ravan witnessed innumerable kind of punishment being meted with out to sinful soul searching for Yamaraja. He coursed on rapidly in the Puspaka. In other part of the mystical and describable region, Ravana saw people enjoying celestial delights by virtue of their good deeds. It seems that through they were situated in a separate dimension of space and time. Beautiful human landscapes stretched out into the distance. Large shining mansions stood near to clear blue lakes. Young men and women with highly attractive forms were dressed in golden garments and ornaments, embarrassing one another and laughing. Excellent food and drinks were laid out on gold and silver tables. Musicians played and young girls danced. Ravana saw countless people intoxicated with pleasure and entirely oblivious to the scenes of suffering elsewhere. Leaving behind the glowing region of happiness, Ravana continued deeply into Yamaloka. He crossed over the broad Baitarani river, which flowed with blood and excrement, and come to another dark terrain where countless Yamaduta were relentlessly pursuing wicked persons. The terrible cackles of Yamaduta echoed there, along with the howls of jackals and wolves. Everywhere stood people who appeared emaciated and felt seized with unbearable thirst and crying out of water. Depending of descending from the chariot, Ravan begins to beat back to Yamadutta, freeing the people they were punished. He felt no compassion for the pain of others, but he calculated that by oppressing the Yamaduta he would cause Yamaraja to appear. As the demon free many thousands of wretched persons from the tormentors, he was suddenly attacked by a massed force of Yamaduta. They assailed Ravana with spear, iron bars, steel clubs, pikes, javelins, and maces. They rose up and began demolishing the seat, dishes, pillars, and houses of the Puspaka. But the indestructible chariot was immediately recreated by the power of Brahma, by whom it had first been fashioned. Ravana Rakshasa fought back against the Yamaduta. Millions upon millions of servants of Yamaduta advanced in great waves. They runed down an ultimately number of arrows and their other fierce weapons upon Ravana and his followers. The Rakshasa engaged with the Yamaduta, sending upon their terrible war cries. The clash of weapons and the shouts of the warriors sounded like the roaring ocean touched by a storms. Leaving of the Rakshasas, leaving of the other Rakshasas, the Yamaduta countered upon Ravana, covered all over with their arrow and bleeding profusely. The demon king appeared like a great mountain, giving forth stream of red lava, using his knowledge of an mystical weapon. The Rakshasa returns of valley of arrow, spear, marsh, rocks, and huge trees. This fearful and deadly shower falling upon the force of Yamaraja, who stood in front of Ravana. By whistling their march and the lances of Yamaduta repels all the Ravana missiles and surrounded him in thousands. They appears like a mass of carnivorous ants um, around a large black beetle. Ravana becomes completely covered by darts and launches piercing every part of his body. He roared in anger and pain, quickly rising upwards from out of the midst of the assailants. Descending the ground, he held his bow and placed upon it a blazing arrow. The demons invoked the power of Shiva, imbuing the arrow with divine force of a immortal God. As the weapon was released, a sheet of fire rushed across the ground, consuming Yamaraj force. Enormous orange and white flame leaped in all directions, burning the Yamaduta's bodies to ashes. The ground itself became molten, and the force of Yamaraj fell back into in a confused mass. In the flame wake come innumerable ghostly followers of Shiva, falling the earth and the sky with their terrifying forms. They rushed about the battlefield, striking fear into the Yamaduta's heart by the power of a Shiva weapon. Waves of four fearsome carnivorous beast spanks up from the ground, howling horrible and tearing at the Yamadutas. Ravana sent of a victory cry, marking the ground's shakes. Hearing that shout, Yamaraj, seated in his palace, could understand that Ravana was powering his force. He ordered his chariot to be placed and quickly mounted it. Yamaraja stood in his stupendous chariot with a lance and a mace in his hand. Angered, the great god burned with a glaring radiance. By his side stood the personified, personified form of Kaladanda, the fallible rod of death. His body a brilliant black and his eyes blazing like two red fires. On the other side of Yamaraja stood a very time spirit uh, himself, the destroyer of the world, fearful in appearance, standing together. Those three deities could not be counterbalanced on all four sides of the chariot, which looked like a dark mountain hung the frightful noses of death, drawn by thousand red and black streets shining with a bright luster and having thousands of great wheels. The celestial chariot advanced with a terrible noise. Seeing that God moving off in anger, all the denizens of human trembled. In an instant, Yamaraj's chariot arrived at the spot where Ravana stood roaring. Ravana followers immediately fell in all directions simply upon seeing the woeful chariots. Some of them fell unconsciously on the spot, but Ravana himself was not afraid. Seeing his awful adversary, he felt overjoyed, anticipating the fight. The demon stood firm as Yamaraja hurled at him many bludgeoning, javelin, and iron clubs. They struck Ravana with a tremendous force, piercing him and causing streams of blood to flow from his body. Ravana raised his bow to counter Yamaraja attacks using sorcery, though he fires thousands of straight flying arrows imbued with a force of a thunderbolt. Those arrows struck Yamaraja all over the body, but the god remained unmoved. Again and again, Ravana fired off his arrow and darts, charging them with celestial power. Thus, he stalked at three deities with his fiery weapons, but they stood firm. Yamaraja sent back to demons countless barbed lance which struck him violently on the breast. Stunning by those irreversible weapons, Ravana fell unconscious unconscious to the ground. Yamaraja, observing the rule of fire combat, did not further attack his overpowered enemy. After some time, Ravana came back his sense and saw Yamaraja still stationed before him. He contemplated his next move. This was indeed a formidable opponent. Rarely was the demon extended in a fight. Ravana relied himself and stretched his bow to full length, released celestial arrows with filling the sky. The, the fell upon Yamaraja like fiery serpents being assailed by those arrows. Though bleeding profusely, Yamaraja roared in anger as he opened his mouth. Fire covered by billows of smoke issued forth. The whole region was brilliantly illuminated by that fires, as if the sun itself had risen in that ever dark place. Witnessing the astronomic battle between Yamaraja and Rakshasa, the god assembled above them. They feared that the dissolution of all the worlds was imminent. Yamaraja's anger would surely inherit the entire universe. Ravana continuously sent his furious weapon towards the three gods. They personified, highly enraged by Ravana, then spoke to Yamaraj, "My lord, do not exert yourself further. Let me remain alone here with this Rakshasa. I shall make short work of him. None in the past, no matter how powerful, have been able to overcome me. Every god, Rishi, and demons has scrambled to my powers. Indeed, all created being most surely submit to me. There is no doubt about it. Therefore, you need not bother yourself with this wretched any longer. Leave him to me." Yamaraj had become infuriated by Ravana's insolence. He felt insulted and he told that to stand back, for he personally would destroy the demon. The Lord lifted up his mace and gazed upon Ravana. As it was raised, that mace threw up a hollow of blazing fire. Yamaraja held it in his hand like a globe of sun, and he fixed his red eyes on the demons. Just as he was about to release the mace up to destroy Ravana, Brahma appeared before him. He was seen and heard only by Yamaraj as he spoke to angry God. "O immeasurably powerful one!" Now Brahmaji telling to Yamaraj, "O immeasurable powerful one, this Rakshasa is not to be killed by you at this time. Indeed, I have conferred upon him a boom that he cannot be seen except by a human. This cannot be falsified. Let the order of the universe be cast into chaos. Therefore, hold back your mercy. Ravana is not yet destined to die. If you release your infallible mace upon this demon, it will result in the death of all the other created being. Long ago, Ravana had pleased Brahma by performing difficult asceticism and had won from the god of boom. Brahma had granted Ravana immunity from being slain by any beings, except for humans or animals, whom Ravana utterly disregarded. Hearing the command of Brahma, the chief of the god, Yamaraja lowered his mace, realizing that nothing could be accomplished by him in that battlefield. He then and there disappeared from Ravana's sides. When he saw Ravana depart, the Rakshasas considered himself victorious and rode in joy. Now he was surely the most powerful being in the universe. What was there left to prove? Even the great Lord of Death had run away from him. Ravana looked around and saw that the slain Yamaduta had been brought back of life of Yamaraj power. Ignoring Ravana, they continued their ghastly tasks of meting out punishment. Ravana felt that he had a further he had no further purpose to achieve this Yamaloka. He had established his supremacy, and that was all he desired. It was time to return Lanka, this golden city, his golden city. Getting aboard the Puspaka, he left that region, followed by his forces, and flew to the north, heading again for the Earth planet where Lanka was situated. So, in this story of in the beginning of the story, it is describing the work of the Ravana, how the appearance of the Ravana, how he is destroying this world. It is clearly mentioned in these prologues. Hope you enjoy this story. Jai Jagannath, Jai Sri Ram.